Hi, everyone, and welcome to Behind the Numbers. My name is Dave Bookbinder, and welcome to the show that goes beyond the data to explore the people, the stories, and the insights that drive business success. Thank you for joining us. And today, I'm pleased to welcome a guest who is the author of 10 books. Her latest is called Something Needs to Change Around Here, The 5 Stages to Leveraging Your Leadership. And I'm pleased to welcome Liz Weber, who's the founder of Weber Business Services. Liz, welcome to Behind the Numbers.
Thanks, Dave. I'm happy to join you today.
Looking forward to having a real deep conversation with you on so many fun topics. But before we do, as I always do here, can you tell the audience a little bit about who you are?
Sure. So what I do primarily is three things. I work with organizations, businesses, government agencies, associations, number one, on strategic planning to help them create very concise, clear strategic plans to guide where they need to take their organization over the next 3, 5, 10 or more years. As part of those conversations, Dave, you and your listeners invariably can anticipate when we're talking about where an organization needs to go, we need to talk about who's going to do those jobs and who's going to do that work. So we get into organizational redesign, but talent and succession planning, figuring out where do we have gaps in talent now and where are we going to have gaps in talent in the future. And then the third thing that I do that I spend a good bit of my time doing is working one-on-one or one with groups of leaders, executive teams, boards, management teams, in an advisory executive coaching capacity, really just helping them, number one, be better leaders. That sounds very basic, but as you and your listeners know, being a leader is hard, and these times are no exception. And quite often I'm helping them learn how to more effectively implement the plans that we have created. So they get maximum leverage, they get less redundancy, and they have a greater impact.
Yeah, lots of great stuff in there. And it's the theme of this program and how that all impacts bottom line, which I know we're going to touch on here today as well. But let me just kick it off with a high level question. So where do you even begin when a client calls you and says, we're struggling? How do you start to dissect what the issues are that leads them to say that they're struggling?
It's a really good question. I was actually just working on a report for a client this morning on this very thing because this particular client reached out and said, I'm struggling and I've been told that we need to do revised performance reviews. And my team doesn't know how to do that. We haven't done it forever. Can you help us? And the question always is, that adage, the customer is not always right, is not true. It's the customer always knows they want something. They may just not know what they need. And so it becomes a question of, well, tell me why you think you need performance reviews, because I may or may not be a fit. It might be something I can't help you with. And it honestly doesn't take too long for a prospective client to start outlining the situation they're in, to kind of like an onion, peel back the layers of quite often what they're talking about is a symptom. It's not the real problem. And so it's a matter of helping them identify what really is the priority issue they're calling me about. And that may be where we need to start. Or it may be something even deeper than that. And it may be something that we need to actually take about 4 steps back to help them from a foundational perspective resolve the issue versus just resolving a symptom. In the particular case I just shared the example, what this particular client ultimately needed, yes, they needed performance reviews and guides and performance management program training, but that was 2 years into the project. What they really needed first was a plan to figure out what their managers are supposed to be doing and guiding their teams towards. Because once we have that focus, then we can actually do some performance management and some performance planning.
Yeah, how do you find the leadership teams getting the aha that the issue is maybe the leadership team when they talk about the leadership team struggling, as opposed to our people suck and they're the ones who are struggling?
It's a great question. And that, Dave, that actually is the premise of the book that I wrote that you referenced at the intro, is when you're frustrated with your team, my guidance to every one of my clients is look at yourself first. Because if your team is not performing the way you want or need them to, invariably what that tells me, and invariably what the case has been, is you are not leading them the way they need to be led at this point in time. So either you need to ramp up a certain skill set, or you need to get become less of a micromanager, or, several things in between. And so the fundamental issue is, if you are frustrated with your team, number one, realize they are your team, they are your responsibility. So you need to A, either adjust the way you're leading, or B, adjust team members.
Yeah, and I want to unpack the book here in just a moment, but what a great piece of self-awareness to react by saying, maybe I should take a look at me first before I start taking a look at them.
Mm-hmm.
How do you get folks to achieve that kind of self-awareness?
Well, I'll be fully candid. I only take on coaching and advisory clients that want to be coached or advised. If someone is being forced to get a coach, I'm not going to work with them, because, to your point, they don't believe they have an issue. And so I'm not going to waste my time or their company's money working with someone who isn't open to self-evaluation. So the clients that I work with are open to learning how to be better leaders. And that may be, a major adjustment in the way they look at themselves and their role. Or honestly, quite often it's a refresher or a reminder of oh gosh, you're right. Or, oh, I hadn't thought about it that way. And it's quite often having conversations with them to help them reframe the situation and come up with, Dave, in all honesty, coming up with the wording to change the words they're using with the team to get a better outcome.
Interesting. Let's start to unpack the book, right? Something needs to change around here. So in the 5 stages of focused leadership development, you take us through the doing phase all the way through the transitioning phase. So early days when folks are hands in the clay, and all the way through to the exit planning, if you will. If you don't mind, Liz, take us through the 5 steps here, and let's unpack each of them.
Sure. So the 5 stages of focused leadership development basically start out, Dave, where you and I, your listeners, as you alluded to, we're the ones that are making the clay bowls. We're the ones that are doing the work the organization is known for. Either we're on the phone with clients, we're frontline, or we're producing the widgets or the bowls. We are the doers. Individuals with stage 1 leadership skills and capabilities are those individuals, I guarantee, like you and I, were the doers that within a very short period of time getting the job, we started asking, why do we do it this way? Where are the SOPs? Where are the instructions for this? How to make it more sophisticated, because I'm having to remember things, or the SOP is outdated. And stage one leadership individuals with those capabilities are the individuals that start asking questions, start looking for ways to improve, start looking for ways to simplify and streamline processes that should not be as complicated as they seem to some other individuals. The challenge with these types of leaders is, quite often when we're in a really busy work environment, the individuals that say, why do we do it this way? Where's this information? Are the individuals that we as managers or supervisors want to say, just be quiet and do your job. And so we want to stifle them. But what I share in the book is these are the individuals that we actually need to keep our eyes on, because they are the ones that are identifying opportunities for improvement and enhancement. They're causing us to create system processes and procedures and a knowledge warehouse that allow us to transition responsibilities and train others on how to do things to gain consistency and leverage. These individuals in stage 1 transition from this doing mindset to a developing systems mindset. They understand the importance of getting consistency and streamlining. That's stage 1. What happens then in stage 2 is, in most organizations, Dave, and I say most intentionally, most organizations, when they promote someone into a leadership role, first line supervisor, manager, whatever it might be, who do they typically promote? They typically promote the best doer, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And you and I and your listeners know doing skills and leading skills are 2 different skill sets. And so what most organizations do is they take the best producer off the line and put them in a leadership role with skills they haven't trained or achieved or innately have. And what happens then is production invariably starts to drop. And so now we have this stage 2 leader who has been promoted from a developing system stage into a managing stage, has to now figure out, how do I get my team to produce when I'm not the producer anymore? And invariably what they do, they continue to produce and they try to manage and they burn themselves out. So stage 2 leaders, the toughest thing for them to learn how to do is to let go, delegate, and train others to do the jobs they used to do so well. The second thing that's difficult for stage 2 leaders is to hold people accountable, because if they've been promoted from within, now they're managing their former peers and colleagues. And suddenly I realize, you know what? Dave really screws around a lot and doesn't work as much as I really need him to. And now I have to tell the guy that I used to eat lunch with every day, you need to actually produce more. That's very uncomfortable and it's very hard to do. But stage 2 leaders that understand their role now as a leader versus a producer can move through stage 2 and really starts to develop a team that is doing the jobs they are being paid to do. The manager's not doing them.
Yeah, and Liz, I just got to jump in here when you talk about the stage 2 and the promoting of the doers. I've seen that so many times in my career in professional services, and it just sets them up for failure. And I've shared a data set here on the program before. I'll share it with you and share it with the audience again, because it really emphasizes this point that in the U.S., I believe that the average age someone gets promoted into a managerial role is around 31. And the average age at which time they get their first leadership training is about a decade later. Mm-hmm. So go figure it out. Try not to screw it up. And looking to the folks above you as an example doesn't always work well in developing this stage 2 process, as you call it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I can't refute those statistics because I've seen it as you have time and time again. So now we've got individuals in stage 2 who are in some type of leadership supervisory role. And when they start getting their arms around it and their head around understanding what their role is as a leader versus a doer, the next transition for them mentally is transitioning from a managing mindset to a leading mindset. And we've all heard the adage, managers do things right, leaders do the right things, which is great. I tend to say the difference between managing and leading is managers focus on the here and now. What do we need to get done today, this week, this month, this quarter, this year, given the resources we have and given the expectations of us and our team? What do we need to produce? What do we need to get done? How do we get that done? Leaders think, in addition to getting those things done, that's a given. We're going to figure that out. What's coming next? And how do I start teeing my team up for it so when it hits, we're not blindsided? So stage 3 leaders start thinking more proactively, more strategically, because they want to get themselves and their teams out of the reactive firefighting mode and into the proactive, strategic, innovative, leading the way mode. That's stage 3. Then we move to stage 4. And stage 4 is where a leader transitions from this leading mindset to a mentoring mindset. And stage 4 can happen fairly easy with leaders if stage 3 is clear, meaning if they have a clear strategic plan, they know where they want to take their organization or they know where they want to take their division and they can see it. Stage 4 becomes fairly clear because now if I know where I'm headed, I can start figuring out from a mentoring mindset, from a team development mindset, who do I need to do this work? How do I need to reorganize? What skills and talent do I need? What positions do I need? So stage 4 is all about building the depth and talent capacity to do the work that needs to get done. And this means really creating agility and getting rid of those one deep scenarios or individual position specific situations and really created a much more fluid, dynamic, and agile team or organization. Then we get to stage 5. And stage 5 is where an individual transitions from this mentoring mindset to a moving on mindset. And stage 5 can occur in a number of different ways. This can occur when someone transitions and leaves the organization altogether. This could occur when someone transitions into a new department or a new division. Or, Dave, it could be as basic as I transition and hand off a project to you to take over. However severe that transition, from my perspective, an effective stage 5 leader is when that transition is seamless and people, particularly externally to the organization, are unaware that I have transitioned my position to you. The services to them are unaffected. The same thing can occur even internally when internal customers are not negatively impacted by my transitioning to you. And why I have stage 5 as that key position, because from my experience, that is where the most selfless leaders realize this is not about me. This is about ensuring the legacy of the work continues through others, either through my team, through my successor, or something, which again elevates the ability to be very agile, to be very quick, to ensure there's cross training. And if you think about it, Dave, in order for me to pass off, let's say, a responsibility to you seamlessly, what I have had to have done is I've had to have worked through those previous 4 stages with you. I've had to help you understand what the work is, how to do it, what the systems are that you use to get the work done. I've had to work with you so you understand the team, the stage 2 team you are inheriting, and their skill sets given the jobs that they are being paid to do. I've had to ensure with you that at stage 3, you have a clear idea of what path I've been taking this project on strategically, so you understand how everything has been aligning to that vision that I was following. You may change it, but at least you understand what the strategy has been. And stage 4, I have really worked with you to develop the skill sets, not only with you, but with all the other team members that now you're going to be responsible for, to make sure they have the skills to carry that strategy forward. Or if you and they choose to change, you're going to know how to adjust those strategies and those skill sets needed with them. So in order to do stage 5 effectively, the previous 4 stages have to be solid.
Yeah, thank you so much for stepping through that. When you're working with clients, do you find that there's a particular stage that's more challenging than others to get over that hurdle?
Yep, great question. Stage 2. And it doesn't matter if this is an individual new to leadership or if this is a senior executive. Stage 2 is often the hardest. And once we can get that mastered in really getting clear in role clarity, role and responsibility clarity, and delegating effectively so that every person is operating at their level and the layer below them is operating at their level, things really start happening. But stage 2 is a major stumbling block.
Yeah, and I see that a lot with business owners, entrepreneurs, the inability to delegate, to let go,
Mm-hmm.
because it's their baby. They've always done it their way, their thing, and still can't figure out if it's a trust thing, it's a control thing, it's a fear thing, maybe all of the above. That's way above my pay grade, but I hear about that as a recurring theme all the time.
Yep, absolutely. Same thing in my world. And that's what I spend a lot of my time working with my clients on is, as the owner of this business, what should your job be? As the CFO, what should your job be? As the HR manager, what should your job be? And it sounds like a really basic question, but I have it with every single client, because quite often what they were hired to do, the position description, that's part of the job. But the other part is something they haven't thought about yet. And that's, in order for them to do the job they're being paid to do, they have to stop doing things other people are being paid to do. And that's honestly, once we pull the position descriptions and I have them look at it, well, what are you doing versus what are you supposed to be doing? And again, it's not a guilt trip, it's an awareness exercise to say, with the best of intentions, because you don't want production to drop, you are currently doing work that Ricky's being paid to do, but he can't do it because you're in that space. Now, what you're doing inadvertently is you are teaching Ricky, don't do these things because I'm going to do them. And so you are inhibiting his growth. He's not doing these things. You're making him dependent upon you to do them. And because of that, you are limiting growth potential for him, for you, and for your team or for your company.
Yeah, and you're also impacting culture and probably turnover as well.
Yep.
Have you seen that?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. And it's part of the unintended consequence of trying to be what many people believe is a good boss. I'm going to be a good boss. I'm just going to handle it for you. And I just want to get this done. Because you're struggling, let me just handle it. For the best of intentions, we think we're being a good person, a good boss. But I want to go back to what I just said. The unintended consequence is if we have an employee who, let's say, is not the most focused on being a high performer, what that team member is going to realize is, woohoo, I don't have to do anything. If I just delay long enough, Liz is going to do it for me. And to your point, I start breeding this culture of underperforming, but still getting paid for the full scope of the work that you're supposed to be doing. Whereas then I'm the manager, and what I end up doing is I end up coming or starting work really early in the morning. And I just saw statistics about this morning. Starting before 6 a.m., I'm doing work that I should be doing as a manager. And then once my team starts logging in or checking in or coming to work, whatever it might be, I spend the core hours of work helping them do things they're supposed to be doing independently or doing some of the things for them that they're not doing. Then when my team leaves at the end of their shift, I stay around or I start working after 8 o'clock at night to finish up doing management things I didn't do all day long. And then I start getting burned out and resentful of my team because they're not producing. And then I
yeah.
get mad also, Dave, I get mad at HR because of the type of people they're hiring.
We may have read the same article. I got something in my inbox yesterday, or I saw it somewhere. I think it was a Microsoft study talking about the extended work hours of the day and the
Exactly.
week.
Yep.
And it seems like we, as a culture, collectively, are, as you said, starting earlier. We're going later, and the weekends are now apparently what's being used for the deep work. In the spreadsheets and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
Not doing the Teams communication because we're so bombarded and so distracted day to day with emails and dings and alerts and meetings and everything else. You just can't get it done.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Exactly.
Mm. Fascinating stuff. Let me talk to you about planning for the succession, the next gen issue, because that's another issue that's a regular theme that I see. Um, Business owners, we can talk about the lack of planning for succession, but it's just a whole different episode. Let's go with they're acknowledging the fact that at some point they're not going to be able to carry on with the business, and we've got to figure out how to go from there. So we identify these next gen leaders. Sometimes it's family members, sometimes it's not. So the big questions there are, of course, are they capable, the next gen, to do it? And do they want to do it? How do you help leaders address both of those challenges and more?
Well, it's very similar to somewhat what I just shared. With my work with family-owned businesses, in particular founder-led or Gen 1 to Gen 2 transitions, I somewhat go through a similar process with them. Is number one, let's clarify where you want this business to go and what do you want this business to do for you and for your family. And quite often for the founder, it's, they want and they need the business to become their retirement fund and their income, but then they also want to provide a legacy and career for their family members, which is wonderful. So then we get that clarity and we focus on creating a plan of focus of what you want the business to look like 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, whatever it might be. And for succession, I get very clear, Dave, when I'm working with my clients, when I tell them, I know you love your family members and blood is thicker than water and blood is thicker than everything else. But if you want this business to survive, to be able to fund your retirement and to provide a livelihood for your children going forward, we need to ensure that we have the right people in the right positions doing the right jobs to take this company forward. So that might mean that your oldest son, though many may seem or think that he is the heir apparent, does not have the skill sets to be the next CEO. He has the skill sets to be your director of marketing. And And let's start having these conversations with your leadership team, many of whom are family members, about the right skill sets for the right positions versus the right person for the right position. And we're going to make this less emotional and more objective into identifying whether it's a family member or if we need to recruit externally. What are the skill sets that are needed for the various positions to ensure the legacy you want for the business and the income stream you need for your retirement? And so we just get very objective about it, and then also go through the exercise of given where the company is going, organizational structure, what is it now? What does it need to be? And what adjustments in skill sets, training capabilities, exposure to opportunities do the various positions and people need to have to better do the jobs they are expected to do now, but will be expected to do going forward? And so we just have very candid, objective conversations around it like that.
Yeah, and that's got to be a tough conversation to have with the business owner and for the next gen individual who's being told that maybe they're not really the person to take the helm going forward.
Mm-hmm. And that's true, and that's why quite often I have the conversations initially first, and that's why with a lot of family businesses, I do a lot of individual coaching, because in the example I'm kind of referencing a client that I had where, dad and mom thought the oldest son should be the one taking it over. But in the individual conversations with him, he was very candid with me. And he's like, Liz, I hate doing that stuff. I
Right.
really hate doing that stuff, but I don't want to disappoint mom and dad. And so, because he doesn't want to disappoint mom and dad, and by the way, next week is Thanksgiving and they're going to have family dinner. We don't want it to be tense at family dinner, so it's easier for me to have the conversation with them as a leadership team and broach the subject of birth order should not create a situation where it's not the best decision for the company and the skill sets the company needs, nor should it be the decision maker for causing your children to be in positions that they may not want to be in and that are unhappy. As parents, you want your children to be happy and successful. So let's tee them up for success. And it's one of those situations that once we have that conversation, and again, it's going to sound really basic and somewhat patronizing, Dave, but sometimes just having an outsider say, I know you want the best for your children. And in putting them in this position versus that position is actually going to be better for them. They're going to be happier, and overall profit margins are going to go up because we're going to have better people in the right positions than forcing a square peg into a round hole.
Yeah, and I want to thank you for saying all of that, because I know there are folks out there listening who needed to hear that, just to get real about their circumstance. Liz, we're getting close to the 30-minute mark here. Do you have a few minutes to go a little bit over? I want to be
Sure,
respectful of your
absolutely.
time.
Absolutely.
Because I would be remiss if I didn't at least ask you about culture, because culture is always the popular topic. How are you advising your clients now to assess their culture and when they've identified challenges, to go out fixing it?
Well, one of the things that I do, and I have to attribute, this is a quote that I heard from Bill Markham, and it basically is, culture is what you feel on Sunday night about Monday morning.
Yeah.
And I share that quote with all of my clients, whether they're the business owner or whether they're a frontline supervisor. And my question to them is, on Sunday night, if you're feeling like, oh crap, I got to go to work tomorrow, and you're dreading it, that should be telling you something, particularly if you're the owner, particularly if you're a leader. Or let's say you don't even do that assessment. Just think about your first interaction with your teams on Monday morning. Are they like, morning? Or like, hey Dave, how you doing? How was your weekend? If they are barely vocal on a Monday morning because they're not I don't want to say thrilled, but they're not they're not ready to engage, that should tell you something. And one of the things that I say is, would you want to work there? Do you want to work there? Do you want to feel like that every day? Or do you want to work with a group of people that they don't need to be best friends, but at least the first meeting every day can be, hey, Dave, how you doing? How was your weekend? Great. Hey, Dave, can we connect at 3:00 today? I need to run through the Johnson proposal with you and your team because I saw a couple of issues that I need you to be aware of that just came through over the weekend, and we need to make some tweaks so it goes out effectively tomorrow morning. That's a very different type of environment. And I work with my clients to get them to that point where not just the leaders are comfortable talking with one another and actually enjoy working with one another. I want other leaders to be talking across one another and enjoy working with one another. And right now, I'm not saying this to be cliche, culture is everything, because the culture of your organization is either going to help you attract and keep great talent, or it's going to repel great talent. And more, we've all seen the studies. It's not about who pays the most. It's about who creates not a fantastic environment, but who creates an environment where employees feel like they're heard, they're understood, they're challenged, they're rewarded, they're acknowledged, and they make a decent income. And then they can go live their life and come back when work is required again. It's understanding that balance. And quite often it takes the help of someone from the outside to come in and say something as basic as, and I do this frequently when I join a client on a Zoom call, Dave, do you realize that your VP of training again turned her camera off during the executive meeting? Do you realize? What does that tell you? Do you realize that she again turned off her camera during the town hall? When every other member of the exec team was on, she turned her camera off. What does that tell you? And it's making team members and making clients aware that it's subtle little things like that that can change the tone, that can change the accessibility, that can change the openness of a culture to one where I'm comfortable reaching out and talking with you versus every time I talk with you on a virtual call, you turn your camera off because you don't like looking at yourself. Well, that tells me I'm not important because you're focused on looking at yourself versus talking to me.
Interesting couple of tells. One of the things I just jotted down here when you were talking about the Monday morning conversations, when I ask somebody how you're doing and they say living the dream, that is clearly a colloquialism for I hate this and what I'm doing. And nobody who says I'm living the dream actually feels like they're living the dream, at least in my experience. So when you talk about the culture is how you feel on Sunday night about Monday morning, couldn't agree more. I've shared posts that use that quote as well. But it's the rare leader that I think feels that way. I've interviewed several CEOs who have had that queasy feeling on Sunday night. Usually it's the employees. So the key here is for the leaders to be able to walk in on Monday or Tuesday or Thursday or whatever day and read the subtle signs, because people aren't going to tell you it ain't good here. What other things should we be looking for besides the maybe living the dream comment?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And I was just actually writing up a use case report earlier this morning on this. I'll just share an example. I had that exact situation with a client last summer where a client reached out. I had worked with them on their strategic plan. It was done 6 months before that. And this client reached out and said, Liz, we just need help. Plan's not working. Morale is in the toilet. We don't know what to do. We're kind of drowning here. And because I know this client very well, I said, let me talk to every one of your managers and kind of get insight from them as to what's happening. Luckily, this CEO agreed. I interviewed his 17 managers, and basically to what you were just alluding to, Dave, the overwhelming feedback I got that I then shared with him was he's inaccessible. He's here every day, but he's inaccessible. And in order to get to him, you have to go through, 2 other layers that they're competing with one another. And we don't hear things from him other than, where is this? Where is that? And so to your question, one of the things that I really do is help leaders identify what are you, again, unintentionally doing that's causing a breakdown in your culture. In this particular case, the CEO was doing his best because he was new into the role. So he was behind locked doors, grinding away, working on things that were important, and he was having pressures from the board and everywhere else. But where he was not aware was by focusing so heavily on things that he believed he was solely responsible for, he was isolating himself from the people who were doing the bulk of the work. And again, when you hear that story, you're kind of like, well, duh. But Dave, you and I have been in those situations where you're so close to something and you got so many pressures on you, you just put your blinders on, you put your head down, and you go for it. And so most of my work when I'm working with leaders on reverting culture to something that they want it and need it to be to drive the company in the direction they want to go, it's often simply making them aware that for the best of intentions, they're doing some things wrong right now that just need to be adjusted. And they need to make some tweaks. And once they start making these tweaks and then they get a cadence of staying consistent with them, culture changes.
Thank you for that. And culture is absolutely mission critical. I write about it, I speak about it because it's all connected. Culture will drive your engagement, your innovation, your profitability, your business valuation. Liz, before I wrap here and ask you to tell people how they can connect with you, I want to give you a chance to do a little humble brag because I know that you were named one of the 2025 top 30 global gurus for leadership. Next to some names that I kind of am a fanboy of, Simon Sinek, John Maxwell, and others. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, thank you for saying that. And in full candor, Dave, I don't know how it happened, and I'm not trying to be humble about it. I don't know how it happened. I'm thrilled. I'm terribly honored by it, but I didn't know about it until I was in Laguna Beach in California with a client one night after a strategy session. I was out walking back to the hotel from dinner, and I got a LinkedIn alert, and somebody else that had made the list, basically had a post on LinkedIn that he was so honored, and he included my name as one of the recipients of the acknowledgement. And I literally did one of those double takes, like, what, me? And I, got back to the hotel room and jumped on my computer and dug through, sure enough, I was on the list. And it's from everything I've been finding out, it's a mark of your reputation, your consistency, and in information that you share, the validity of the information that you share, the helpfulness of the information, the work that you do. So I'm quite honored by it and humbled by it. So thank you for asking.
Well, that's pretty cool. So congratulations for that.
Thank you.
Now, tell the audience how they can find you, how they can connect with you, how they can learn more, how they can work with you.
Absolutely.
Where they can get the books.
Yeah, well, the books are available on Amazon, and they are certainly welcome to go there and buy any one of the books there. They can connect with me on LinkedIn. My handle on LinkedIn is Liz Weber CMC, and Weber has one B. Or they can go to my website, which is my company name's abbreviation. So it's W as in William, B as in boy, S as in Sierra, L as in Lima, C as in Charlie.com. WBSLLC.com. And they can find out more about me there or on LinkedIn.
And they will find all of that in the show notes as well. Liz, thanks so much for spending some time with us today and Behind the Numbers. It was a lot of fun.
Thanks, Dave. I appreciate it.
Awesome. And thank you out there for tuning into Behind the Numbers. If you enjoyed the episode, please take a moment, leave us a review on Apple or Spotify. That really does move the needle in creating more awareness and visibility for the program. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss another episode. Until next time, I am Dave Bookbinder, reminding you that the numbers tell the story, but the people bring it to life. Take care, everybody.